Jam clear.
Hi there, everyone. Back on hosting reins for me today. Nathaniel's poorly, so he's not made it. I'm going to be honest with you. It's probably not going to be the most entertaining episode. It's the last two Dead Rubber games.
What a way to get people in.
2 draws, so you're gonna have loads of fun. Obviously, sponsored by the Pearsons. It's not Pearsons anymore. It's all Zoological in Hull. How dare I? Big refurb. Nobody's been since. Big stitch up. That's because I'm still from weeks ago, Will. I'm still in hosting mode from back then. Nathaniel's host now. But yeah, obviously sponsored by Old Zoological in Hull. We are part of the TalkSport fan network. And if anybody watching us live has noticed, obviously audio viewers won't be here now, but Goals TV, little tab thing down there. So we've mentioned it before, but not in great detail. It's basically just it's a streaming website that's based in North America. It's just it's got basically every sport, loads of content creators on there to talk about American football, basketball, hockey, as well as our football. And if you use that code to sign up, it's completely free to join, and it supports us as a network too. So just head over to them, check them out, use that code THAB to sign up to that, and you're open up to a new world of content. Joined by Will today and Tom. We'll obviously just go straight into the Swansea game at first. They still had something to play for. They still were chasing down the top 6. We've not really had anything to play for a number of weeks now. I've had no strikers available for a number of weeks also. But a promising start to the game. Obviously, it was an early goal. We got in down the left-hand side with Vaughan, put it into the middle for an early goal. Will, did you think it was a kind of game... was it a better game than you expected it to be?
It was about what I expected it to be, because it was two teams who like to pass the ball around, like to have possession, and I think both teams showed that in both halves. We dominated the first half of both halves, and then Swansea dominated the second half of both halves, but neither team could really break through one another for the most part. I think both teams were very good defensively. And I thought a draw was about right. It's a shame for Swansea because we ended their very slight playoff chances, but I think the draw was about correct, and I think it was two teams who play similar football kind of cancelling one another out with that football.
Yeah, it was two possession-based teams, wasn't it, as well? And I think we were probably on the lesser end of the possession scale. Swansea, I think, have been playing that way for a number of years, and I think that showed. We'll stay on the topic of this style of player then, Tom. Do you think that, especially considering that we haven't got our full firepower available in terms of the forward players that we've got missing at the minute and things like that, do you think that this possession-based system, I know that a lot of people can sometimes have a bit of it can be against it just for the risks that we take when we're playing out from the back and things like that, but coming up against a side like Swansea, do you think that's the kind of play that we aspire to do, or do you think we more than matched them in that sense?
Yeah, I think we're aspiring to do that, and Rossini in a short time being here has sort of transformed us into this possession-based side, and that's obviously the right way to play going forward. You Alfie Jones and McLaughlin at the back, they're both great on the ball, playing out, and I think we'll get some signs in the summer that can sort of adapt to this system, and we're looking much better. But one issue I have with the style sometimes is that we can sort of play the football in the wrong areas of the pitch. It's all right knocking it about when you're in the middle of the pitch, but we have to be a bit more pragmatic going forward. Like, we don't really get it to the wings quick enough. We're passing around, and then someone, Greaves might take a few touches, and then he'll get it to the wing, and then by then, the opposition have got back in position. But I think to play to our strength sometimes, it'd be good to be a bit more direct. When it's not necessarily this possession-based style's not necessarily going that well, not necessarily or just lump it up front, but I mean, maybe try and take a few more risks in behind. You've got the likes of Aliad that like to run in behind. You've got the likes of Vaughan that like to get in behind as well, currently. And then obviously Atete does as well when he's back. And you've got to exploit that, play them killer balls. But maybe in the summer, I think that's what we've got to invest in, someone that can sort of grab the game by the scruff of the neck and come with that moment of quality to split a defence, because right now I think that's where we're lacking. In terms of building up from the back, like you've got Seri that sort of controls the game, and without him, we're a totally different team. We can't get a foothold in the game, but we've got him. Someone like obviously Traore's come in and done that sort of job, splitting defences, but maybe get a bit more quality in the final third. And I think I don't want to say it, but maybe we might be up there next season. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, it's promising signs.
Do you think it's just like do you think it's just a case of the tempo maybe needs increasing at times? And because I do think that this style when we're playing it, it's a style you've got to be patient with, and he said that numerous times in his interviews. We've got to stick with him, and he has said also multiple times that they've got to pick and choose when to do it. So he can only tell them so much. The players on the pitch have got to do that. They've got to have that intelligence, and they've got to make that decision themselves to when they've got the ball at feet, whether that be the goalkeeper or the centre half, or Seri, who's probably sitting deeper in the midfield, as to try and make a more progressive pass. I mean, like, I'm thinking back to the Sunderland game when because we don't see Seri venture into the offensive half very often, but in that Sunderland game, that first goal comes from Seri carrying the ball forwards, allowing other midfielders to then run forwards, which obviously gave it to Slater into Tufan to score. And I don't think we see enough of that. So do you think maybe it's a case of maybe with the pre-season, that the players will come back and he'll sort of say, well, these were the building blocks from last season, this is looking very well, but this is what we need to do to change that this season. Obviously, that will come with signings and hopefully a lot less injuries. But is there actually much that Rosenior needs to tinker with in the style of play that we're doing at the minute? Is it worth sticking with as fans, obviously?
It's so hard to say because we've never really had a full fit side while Rosenior's been here, to be honest, and never really had the squad that he's wanted up, fully fitness. I think defensively he'll be very happy now for the most part, and I think in the summer it'll be a case of, right, this is what we've got right, and we need to improve on. And I agree. I think it is a tempo thing. It's the passing from defence to midfield to attacks just too slow. The transitions are too slow at times, and it allows a lot of teams to sort of like get ready for our attack as a result for the most part.
Yeah, you allow teams to get to shape, don't you? And that's the problem, because we always struggle when teams seem to defend deep or sit back, which I think in a game like what we saw with Swansea and what a lot of us were actually looking forward to was a sense that Swansea actually still had something to play for, which meant that, especially with the difficulty of our running towards the end of the season, we were actually playing sides that still had shouts of attaining something, which I think we all were particularly happy about, because it meant that these teams weren't going to come here and sit back because they needed to come here and win. So it meant that, we weren't looking at dire affairs, maybe the Luton one to an extent, obviously, because they were probably resting some players for the playoffs and things like that.
Definitely.
But, the Swansea game in particular, obviously, I thought that there was a lot to be desired in terms of, obviously, well, I think that's been a problem all season, is that final ball, the quality of the final ball. And we have that with a few of the players. I think Aliar comes to mind, a very promising player with the ball at his feet, tends to do the right thing and then gets it to, the final third, and then sort of his brain just turns to mush and he doesn't quite make the right decision at that time. But that seems to be the case with most of the side. Tom, do you think that is literally just because, is it a bit of a cop-out to blame it on injuries? Or do you think it's just because we've got a relatively young squad and it's going to obviously have to come with time kind of thing, these decision-making at the key moments?
Yeah, I think sometimes we do. The football we play is brilliant. Like, we switch through the thirds well. We get into a promising position in the final third, like you said, and then the final four deceives us. I think that can be put down to not having a recognised striker in there, because we're getting out wide. You've got two sort of forwards then, Traore and Tufan, or whoever's playing up front, who are both notoriously attacking midfielders that like to drop off. So they don't have the sort of nous to sort of play the striker role. We've seen Tufan play quite well up there, but it's not the same as having an Oscar or a Tete up there, or Connolly, just sort of that presence. You miss that in the box. Like, people slander Oscar, but he scored 13 goals this season. He's got a good presence in the box, and that's where most of the goals are coming from. He scores some crucial goals. Obviously, Birmingham away sticks out. We won 1-0, crucial point of the season where we're struggling a little bit. And I think we have missed Oscar, but yeah, the final ball has to improve. And I think if we get the right signings in the summer, then get a bit more quality, and then that'll certainly sort of take us up a gear. But yeah, Alia's been quite frustrating this season for me. I think he's one of them players, but you don't really know his best position. Last season we saw him playing a two up front with Keane Lewis Potter, and he looked brilliant. Like, I think that's probably his best position, striker. But Rossini seems to think that out wide. But yeah, he's an exciting player to watch. But yeah, if we want to sort of kick on, we've got to start being a bit more ruthless, and we've got to make them right signings. So yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, I think obviously, because as fans you want to watch, at least you want players that, especially I think in wingers, we miss. I think football misses at the minute that those kind of wingers that get bums off seats, kind of exciting as soon as they touch the ball. People want to stand up because they think something's going to happen, kind of thing. The kind of signing we expected Ebuwe to be, which obviously didn't turn out very well. But someone like Harry Vaughan who's come in now, Vaughan I think was very good against Swansea, and I'm quite glad that he obviously got his first goal contribution in terms of that cross. But it was his run that obviously made the goal for, which I still think was. I've rewatched the replay so many times, and I still can't decide whether it was an own goal or two fans, because it looks like he sticks.
You want it to be your doppelganger's goal. Just be honest. It's because it's you.
He's not my doppelganger, but it does look like he manages to stick his leg out in front of Kabanga and put it in. But I ain't seen anything slow motion enough to.
To be fair, regardless, two fans' movement causes the goal. Regardless, there.
Yeah, it does. And obviously, Vaughan making that run from deep, and obviously we know the class that Seri's got to make that pass to go out wide, to get on the end of it, and then obviously it's in the box, it's in a goal. And we had a very good start, but that's the kind of thing you want to see from your wingers, getting into those positions, putting in dangerous crosses, even if it's just to an area where someone should be, and then just hope that someone gets on the end of it. And like Tom said, obviously someone like Oscar probably would have an hat-trick against Rotherham, for example, in the game where we failed to score, but we had the ball in so many good positions. But I think it gives you a bit of optimism, because if you think to next season, and the players that we've got available right now, and that's without the transfers that we're supposed to be bringing in, which I can imagine he's working hard on. Like you say, Traore in there, Tufan, now that he's had a full season in the Championship, understands the league. We've got Harry Vaughan, who probably will have a part to play in the first team next season, regardless of the signings we make. There's so much promise there with the strikers, and you'd think that when this system gets bed in a bit more with pre-season, we could be a bit of a threat. I mean, like Will said, we've the defensive side of things also has been brilliant. Like, I think, 14 clean sheets we've had under Rosini, or is that in total? Which is crazy.
I think only one of them was under Shotter.
Yeah, one clean sheet under Shotter. And then Rosini gets one in his first game away at Millwall with 10 men. So it's just, it's good. It's the Swansea. We'll say on the Swansea game before we go on to the Luton one. Swansea's goal. There's not really any complaints about that. Would you say? Nice goal. I think it's just a really good goal. Wasn't it? Very good.
Very nice Swansea goal.
Yeah, those tend to be what they do. But do you think that when it comes to when you're watching teams like Swansea play, do you think our players would have seen that kind of movement? You like Tufan, you like Traore, watching things like that and thinking, yeah, that's the kind of stuff we should be doing. Do you think they'll apply that kind of style to their play next season?
I think the Swansea are definitely an influence of sorts.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, isn't it? Because Burnley as well played a possession-based style, but they were very relentless in the way that they pressed. I don't know if our players maybe didn't have the fitness to do that kind of press this season. The
amount of injuries we had as well, I think.
And you look at the actual players they've got as well, Burnley.
Yeah. Well, they recruited really well as well, didn't they? I think they didn't actually suffer that bad with injuries, did they? We've got a comment there, obviously, about the ability of crosses. I mean, I think it would be interesting to try and find a stat on successful crosses, but we've never really. Yeah, go on, Tom.
They always go straight, don't they? I think we missed someone like, obviously in the Steve Bruce promotion season, you had El Mohamed on one side, Brady on the other side, putting these crosses, and I don't miss that style of football, but you got your reward for putting. Eventually, you could put 25 crosses in the game, but you get your reward eventually. They're usually quality balls as well. We also missed someone like Brady from like a dead ball or Snodgrass, dead ball specialist. I don't think we have one of them really in the team, like that can put in a dangerous ball from a corner, set piece. I'm not sure how many scores to score from a set piece this season, but I don't think it's that many, and that's something we've struggled with for a while. And maybe we could look to recruit someone that can sort of fit the bill in terms of that quality in the final third, and being able to put that cross in and sort of play the killer ball at the right time. I think the Championship has come a long way in the past decade, where like you used to be able to create a lot more chances for your striker, and he might get 4 or 5 chances a game to score. Whereas now, most games, your striker will get 1 or 2, and he has to put them away. It's like, obviously the quality now in the Championship is so much more different than it was 10 years ago. So it's like, obviously football's evolved, but you've got to sort of recruit the right players in terms of our style. But
yeah, I think with us. I feel like we cross the ball more when we've not had our strikers fit, and then it's weird because we do the opposite when we've got corners and free kicks. We tend to try and play them short, which makes more sense when you've not got your likes of Oscar and Tete on the pitch. But I'm not a fan of short corners, free kicks. I don't think I ever will be until one ends up in the back of the net.
It's like you get to 93rd minute, you're playing a short corner. Like, just get it in the box, man. Like, stop pissing about with it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair,
that is the time when we'll score one, though.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, there's a lot of praise in the comments. To be fair, for Louis Coyle, not Doyle. I would imagine.
Doyle.
Well, yeah, he's our best crosser by a mile.
Yeah, and I think it's a shame, obviously, that we've not had the likes of Oscar or Tete fit, especially for this last few weeks, really, isn't it? Because when you're crossing the ball into Tufan, Traore, and Slater, you're not going to win many headers, are you? Although Tufan doesn't seem too bad in the air, does he? To be fair,
he's always in the right place, isn't he, in the box? That's one thing with Tufan. Like, that's sort of midfield have been crying out for a while. Under Rossini, he's along with McLaughlin as well. Them two are probably the most improved in terms of the physical performance and in terms of the quality as well. Like, obviously Maka came in from nowhere, and when we was all asking for him to play, obviously he's slotted in so well. And then obviously Tufan, when we knew that the quality was there, but obviously Rossini's getting out of him more, and he's actually applying the energy as well. I think as the season's gone, he's got fitter, so hopefully with a full pre-season under his belt, hopefully Tufan can push on next season, because we know he has the quality. It's just about just having the consistency to go with it. So
yeah, I suppose with Tufan, it's what position does he play next season? Because obviously at the minute, I think, I would argue that the current position he's playing is his best. I think that sort of false 9
from the front,
free roam that he's got at the minute is the best we've seen of him since he's come here. But obviously next season, you would hope that we've got at least 2 strikers that will probably play, unless he plays with obviously 3 and the 1 through the middle.
You could play with Traore. If you wanted to fit him in, you could play obviously Tufan in behind the striker, put Traore on the wing, like as an inverted winger. Like, that could work.
Yeah. Because your thing is, obviously there's a player missing out somewhere. So midfield wise, like Seri, Traore, and Slater has been a very good midfield 3, and then you've got Vaughan, who's coming on the left side and been phenomenal since his debut. Tufan, who can play obviously up top or in the middle, but he's been playing obviously as that false 9 at the minute, the sort of figurehead, and then we've got Aliar on the right hand side. But you wouldn't really want to put Tufan out wide or Traore, because they haven't got the pace to do obviously what Aliar does. So it's tough. It's a weird one for where we play Tufan next season, because you'd think he would obviously drop into a midfield 3, and it'd have to be a rotation between him and Traore, because I think they're probably the most similar players, aren't they?
I think if this is down to the recruitment, I think that last season, like, we recruited a lot of sort of different players that don't fit into this style that we're playing now, and I don't think even the players we signed last year fitted into Shotter's style really, which sort of, obviously Adrian's probably learned his lesson now, but we sort of recruited but didn't really look at the profiles of the players, and that's led to the injuries. But I think with Rossini now, we'll have a clear path of recruitment, so we'll start sort of recruiting sort of more proven Championship players that he knows well. Obviously he's worked in League One, and he knows the Premier League as well, and I think that's going to be a positive, because right now you can speak about a lot of players like Tete, Tufan, you don't know where they're Aliar as well, you don't really know their best position, like, and how to fit them in. But hopefully Rossini can sort of figure it out in the summer and come back next season fully fit 11 and start with a bang, really.
Last thing then before we move on to Luton, Will, was it 3 or 4 home games in a row we had 20k plus? Something that last year seemed miles away. was reserved for Premier League opposition in the cup kind of games, but the attendances are steadily increased. Obviously, cheaper tickets has helped towards the end of the season, and obviously we had the really nice gesture of the free away travel. But do you feel like, obviously, with the home games this season, do you think we will have managed to convince quite a few people to come back to the club next season? Do you think our home attendances will increase slightly, memberships will go up, things like that? Do you think the feel good factor will carry on?
Yeah, it will.
Possibly. It's not just free away travel; it's free home travel as well, because they've been organising travel from out towards like Wivensey way and all that sort of way to get people in as well. I think the fact that even obviously the ticket offers on, even regardless of the ticket offers, the attendance has been steadily increasing anyway, showing that how much good faith there is behind this new ownership and new manager. And I think it's only going to continue. Like next season, I think you'll see, even without the ticket offers, I think we'll start getting regular 20,000s.
Yeah, I mean, because it's something that we haven't. I mean, we used to get 18 to 20k in like League Two, didn't we? So I think our average is between 18 and 20,000, and then obviously the extra 4 or 5k that you get for your sellouts and things like that will be for, like we say, when we get the cheaper tickets, or if we're doing well. Obviously, fair weather fans come back, don't they? But our steady attendances in terms of the club, I think we're probably going to reach them next season at least. Tom, you was going to say something.
Yeah, but the free ticket, obviously the free travel to home matches, I think that could be a cost efficient way to keep fans coming back. I know the away travel will be quite steep to be maintained across the season, but you think about it, like it's not going to cost him a lot to get fans, free travel. But yeah, I think it should be encouraged the fans to come back next season, even without that, even if Adrian stopped the free home travel. But yeah, good summer recruitment, more positive news off the field. Trip to Turkey, I think more fans will be coming back. But yeah, you're right there that the average attendance is probably around 18,000. So I remember in obviously the Championship, sort of 2010-11 was getting about 17,000-18,000, like under like Nigel Pearson, when obviously Allams came in. So I think that is around our attendance. I think a couple thousand on top when we're doing well on that.
Yeah, I think how many memberships did we sell? I think it was like 11,500 or something like that. Was it? You'd expect to go that to about 13.
Yeah, around like 12,000. Yeah.
So
the one positive thing I've noticed as well, sitting up in West Upper, is for a lot of those games recently, they've had all the local sort of grassroots sports teams, like kids teams, up, like loads of them in the top school kids, and I think that's a good thing to see, just from a new generation of fans being brought in.
Yeah,
and someone's just commented it as well.
Yeah, it's on the board.
Well, that 6,000 school kids thing hasn't been in case when it's been the 23,000s, because the West Up has been, you can tell it's been ticketed because there's loads of different people up there. It's been for a lot of the other games where they haven't had the big deals on. They've had the West Upper open for a lot of the school kids.
Yeah, I remember when I was at school and that they used to do like give away free tickets.
Yeah, they did for ages.
They used to do a charity sort of events. I think for that sort of returns. We obviously past decade, probably 7, 8 years, we've lost a generation of fans really due to the Allams. So I think it's good now that we're Adrian sort of realising that we want to get more fans in, the younger generation back, and the way you do that is offering the free tickets. But the fact that a 0 to 10-year-old is a free membership, an adult's 25. It's cheap football. It's cheap. This is probably surely we're like one of the cheapest in the Championship in terms of like a yearly membership.
But it's not just that; it's the events they host all year round as well. There's all those different nights they have at the KC, different events for the younger generations and stuff as well, which only entice fans to come back, or those little kids to get involved in the club more.
Pre-match atmosphere is obviously improved as well, as we've touched on before. Eddie as a DJ.
Eddie doing the DJ has been superb.
And then obviously the stuff they do outside, the face paint and all that. It's obviously promising times for the club, and hopefully that carries on to next season and on the pitch really.
Yeah, because obviously under the Lambs, we all know what happened, and there's no point dwelling on it too long. But with the abolishment of obviously the concessionary tickets and OAPs and things like that, and then a lot of fans stayed away for a long time. And when you were seeing the 9,000-10,000 attendances, we had things like that. You worried that you wouldn't be able to bring these fans back, especially after COVID and cost of living and things like that. I mean, we sat here on this podcast and spoke about how big a task Adrian has bringing people back because one, the cost of things, and two, people will have found other things to do on weekends to fill the time instead of coming to football. And there's so many different factors that come into play. But I can safely sit here now, I think, at the end of the season and say that when I attend games now, it feels like it did years ago, where you wanted to come to football. Yeah, I mean, like,
actually, I think for years we all sort of like was like, oh, I've got to go to the football today, but now there's much more like positivity surrounding it when you go. Like the atmosphere is much better.
Yeah, and even with like the tickets for school kids and things like that, at least the club's now being active in the community again, and like you say, looking after the future generation of fans, because at the end of the day, they're going to be the next set that come to attend games. So, you know, I bring my daughter on the regular. She absolutely loves it, and there's so many experiences now, and all the school kids that are coming to games. Hopefully, they now fall in love with Hull City rather than your Liverpools, your Man Uniteds, Chelseas, and your Leeds, the Hull Whites or whatever it is with our West Yorkshire neighbours. You know, try and convince them to support us instead. So you've got to make those kind of efforts, haven't you?
Yeah, I think we're one club city really. Like we should have a big attendance.
And I think you'll find, Tom, we're a rugby town.
Yeah. Don't get me started on that, but
I'm not going to even go into that.
So yeah, very feel good factors back at home. Obviously, then we travelled to Luton away, who were third. I think they guaranteed third. I don't think they were. Was it depending on their result in Millwall?
Oh, yeah, they were already guaranteed.
Were they already
third? Like 5 points above Millwall, weren't they?
Yeah, so they rested a few key players because they've got the playoff campaign to think about. It was just whoever they were going to play in sixth. I think it changed a few times. I'm pretty sure Millwall were 3-1 up against Blackburn at one point and in the top six, and they were losing 4-3. That's quite funny.
I don't know how that happens. Like,
Sunderland have ended up in the top six instead. Tony Mowbray working a wonder there. But a game that you could probably look at and just think, yeah, dead rubber. You went to the game, didn't you, Tom? Was you in fancy dress?
Yeah, I did, yeah. No, I didn't bother this year, but I did last year with the traffic curtain. Didn't bother this year, though. Joe was there in fancy dress, John Cena.
But it was a game that, obviously, we made a few changes too. I think it was Doc, Simons, Maka was back in, one he was dropped against Swansea.
4 changes. Luton made 8 changes. And
Ingram back in goal.
Yeah.
So it was a game that it was going to be one of those typical end of season dead rubbers, but I still think it was quite enjoyable. Is that something you agree with?
It was a good game to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't one of the boring 0-0. It wasn't one of them ones where you're like, but to be fair, at some points in the game, I was quite tired, so I was like, I could sleep right now, but it was still a decent game, I guess. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I thought for one thing is I think this game was one of the best we had in a long time in terms of how we controlled the ball. I think this was the kind of possession-based style that Rosini was going for in terms of, I mean, I think Luton barely touched the ball in the first 15 minutes. I'm sure a stat came up on screen saying that we had about 189 passes and Luton had made 22. So, they barely touched the ball for the first 15 minutes. And then we had a few good chances. Obviously, Aliyah threw on goal, deflected, I think, onto the keeper, onto the post or something like that, wasn't it? And then obviously Ingram coming back in goal, looking quite good. Do you think Ingram's got is going to be happy being one of those players who's perhaps fighting for a number one spot against next season? Because he's just as good to be a number one, isn't he? As obviously. We had Darlow has been absolutely brilliant. Baxter was good when he came in.
It's just as it was when Baxter was here, because it's just both Ingram and the other keeper fighting for the spot. I mean, I imagine he'd want to be a first choice, but I think because of how close both of them are, I imagine it's enjoyable sort of chase between the two of them on the training field.
Mm.
Oh, I hope it is anyway.
The logic behind it, isn't it, that when you've got two really good players vying for one spot, it brings the best out of each other because they have to perform better to retain that role. So it's always a good thing that you've got two first team quality players obviously battling for the same position because they're going to play better automatically. Nathaniel's obviously said we play well at Luton but barely created anything. I think that's been a story of our season. Sometimes we do tend to get to the edge of the box and don't really do anything with it. Don't create that many chances. It was worse under Shotter. Improved slightly under Rosini. I think the conversion rate has been quite a bit better under Rossi. But what do you put that down to, Tom, then? So say, obviously, there's been a lot of times this season where we could probably come away saying, you know what, we played really well that game, but we just, probably wouldn't have scored if we played for another hour. What does Rosini have to do to change that next season?
I think since Rossini's come in, we've transformed from, I think when we was on the podcast start of the season, we're saying we were lucky to get a point there. Now we was unlucky not to get 3 points sometimes, it was unfortunate just to get a point. I think with our performance levels improved a lot more. I think obviously when we undershot, we was playing, we played half and then second half we just fell apart. But I think with Rossini, we're seeing much more progression. But I think in terms of getting the performance levels, I think in terms of sort of turning them 1 point into 3 next season, it's just down to how efficient we are in the final third. I think we've got to be we've touched on it already. We've got to be more pragmatic in possession, I think, and we've got to move forward quicker. But I think obviously we've shown promising signs of the football we've played, but there's always going to be room for improvement. And in terms of the goals department, that's where we've been let down. And it's a baffling one because the games like Sunderland and QPR, we've obviously scored 3 against QPR, 4 against Sunderland. I think we just play better when the team that you're playing against is sort of also attacking. I don't know, that sounds obvious, but like when a team takes the game to us, like Middlesbrough did, and in that first half where I think we played our best half of the season there in terms of the football we play so much better. But I think it's about finding that balance, and when a team like sort of Luton do play a bit of a low block and like to hit you on the counter, you've got to sort of find a solution for that. And currently we haven't found a solution for that, and I think that's what Rossini's got to sort of figure out in the summer, like a plan B, so to speak. Because I think sometimes we don't change depending on the game. We sort of let games pass us by. We'll bring on someone who's the same personnel. So like you'll take off a Slater and bring on a Doherty who's a similar player. Whereas it's the last game of the season. You should go for it really. Like in terms of it doesn't mean anything. I want to see you sort of go for that. Maybe take a few more risks, but yeah.
It was nice seeing some of the younger players come on. To be fair,
yeah, I was Harry Wood coming on and then scored a hat trick next day against Charlton, didn't he? So
yeah,
some few days for him, but yeah, it's good to see the youth get a chance, and that's just it's sort of good that it's sort of good that for the past like 10 games we've had nothing to play for really, because it's allowed us sort of blood through the youth. Like obviously, I think if we had a relegation battle to play for, Harry Vaughan might not been thrown in at the deep end really, because it's more of a risk.
Vaughan was kind of essentially because we had all injuries. I think that's the only reason Vaughan really got a chance.
He benefited from that, yeah.
Talking of Harry Vaughan, we've got a To Hull and Back podcast groundbreaking moment. Nathaniel's put, I don't want to put any pressure on the young lad, but Vaughan might be better than Longman.
Is he all right?
You're over.
That illness must be taking over.
I mean, to be fair, the thing is with Vaughan, the biggest compliment I can give him is that he looks like he's been playing in the Championship for about 4 or 5 years. Not a player that we've just signed from Oldham Athletic, and he's chucked him straight into the starting lineup. He hadn't once looked phased. He hadn't looked like he's been confused as to part of the system. It looks like he understands exactly what Rosini wants him to do. I think the only criticism you can throw his way is that he's very, very warm-footed. He's like me. He will not use his left foot.
Yeah, and I think the physicality as well. I think the first few games he played, I think he shone really well. But I think the Luton game, that was sort of harsh reality of what the Championship is about, like the physicality of the game. And I do think he got bullied a bit by his fullback, but I think as he grows more, he's 19, he's going to physically grow as well. And that he's only going to get better as a player. You saw it with Keane Lewis-Potter really, like when he first came to the team, but I think he bulks up a bit, and then he was a bit harder to knock off the ball, and that's how he sort of transformed into the player he became. And then same with Bowen as well. I think Bowen came into the team as this sort of young player, like he was like 20 years old, and then over the coming seasons he sort of develops into this great player. So I think hopefully the same with Harry Vaughan.
It's improvement, isn't it? You want to see. Yeah. Each season, they've improved on the last. And I think Bowen's a great example of that, because when he came in, he scored, was 11, 12 goals, something like that. Then was it 15 in his first, and then he scored more the next year, and then was on course to score more the year after. That's that steady improvement that got him that big move to the Premier League. Obviously, ultimately relegated us. But in terms of him and as a player and for the team, you could see that he got better every season, and obviously that, like you say, will come with time with on. You know, he's only just come to this league, and that physicality, that intelligence in the game, that bit of streetwise that I think someone like that we've missed, someone like Connolly gave us, that ability to wind up the opposition, especially the fans and things like that. All that will just be learned, and I think, like we say, I think we've got the third or fourth youngest average age in the league or something like that.
It's definitely quite low.
Yeah, when you think you've got players like Seri that are in the 30s, and you know it's probably the vast majority of our squad are very early 20s, and like I say, but I was going to come back to your point, Tom, about where you said that our changes have been more like for like than sort of trying to proactively try and win the game or something like that. Obviously, Anshep's put a comment there saying we need some game changes also in the squad. I mean, we'll all sound like a broken record. There's not much option he's got at the minute, especially with terms of
injuries.
I think, but to be fair, every time I've gone on an opposition show or anything like that, every squad this season has had so many injuries. I mean, you could probably find 75% of the league will say they've had an injury crisis this season. So it's pretty bizarre that, you know, it's like it must be the recovery from not playing it's so intense in front of fans under COVID and things like that, and then getting fully into the swing of things. And maybe the World Cup break. I don't know. Maybe
I think it takes a lot of rhythm, doesn't it, the players, because they lose the match sharpness a bit. If you're not playing for a month, it's like with anything. If you don't go for a run for a month, you're going to lose that sort of bit of edge and fitness. Like, you know, I
mean, they essentially had like a mini pre-season though, didn't they? They were out there. They were doing training. They were doing, friendly games, things like that. I know it's not the same intensity or anything like that, but it's not like they had a month off kind of thing. So it's a bit bizarre. Maybe it's just because of the routine.
It was probably a good thing we had that as well, because it allowed Liam to put his sort of stamp on the team without having to rely on trying it in games. Trying it in games, and we lose these games, but they're building the sort of style up.
Speaking of a new striker, have you seen who we've been linked with today? Ashley Barnes. Yeah,
he doesn't score.
He doesn't score. He's a good hand,
but he's that sort of player that shithouse that you need. But it's whether you want to take a gamble on someone who's 33 years old. It's like
I didn't swear this time.
It's like Figueiredo. It's like Figueiredo. You signed in from Forest thinking he's going to be this established championship player. He comes in and he's awful. But Ashley Barnes is one of them. He presses. He's aggressive, and he's someone that you can bring off the bench and run down a game. But he's not someone that should really be targeting. I don't think.
That's the thing.
He's not a recruitment.
You've got Aaron Connolly there who can essentially do that, but he's a younger, fitter
player. You
don't
want to take a risk on that. After a final payday, like his wages are going to be cheap, are they? So
and I think there'll be a lot of championship clubs in for him as well. I think
Carling Grant as well.
Yeah,
Carling Grant's.
Everyone throwing transfer possibilities in the comments.
Sonny Bradley.
We'll do a transfer episode.
I know Sonny Bradley back.
We'll talk about rumours.
You don't one of them guys that just wants a former player back.
No. Sonny Bradley's been good for Luton. He's not like fucking. It's not like Will Keane, who's been naff.
Or Curtis Davis, who just threw away Derby's playoff hopes.
Yeah, Nick Powell, Curtis Davis, there's Sonny Bradley.
I have Davis back as a coach.
Sam Clucas.
Clucas there.
He's getting released as well. No, we'll do an episode talking about transfers and things like that. We'll do an episode actually as well where we're going to review the signings that we made this season. Obviously, with so many being made in the summer,
we should do a scoring system or something like that.
Yeah, maybe we're going to do like
everyone does a system.
Jury's out, hit or flop kind of thing, where you can make a decision. I mean, the fact that Figueiredo and Woods have been made available for transfer probably answers that question for us already. But we've got a lot of obviously different episodes planned throughout the summer, especially in terms of transfers and things like that. Because it's going to be an interesting one, isn't it, with Rosinia needing to bring in, I think he said 6 players. Is it £14 million transfer budget, something like that?
What is it? Who said about the budget? Was it
Adjun.
Did he actually say we've got 14 mil? it's so weird. Like
I maybe wouldn't say that because people see you've said that and say, right, I want 14 mil for this player.
This 3 million player, give us 10 mil now. Do you know what I mean? But it's so weird seeing an owner come out and say like about the budget. Like I don't necessarily agree with it. Like you don't need to say that. I think he's sort of.
I think it's just because
true.
Reassuring sort of thing in it, but
I think it's because that was the profit margin we made in the last account. So that realistically is what you've got to spend.
Maybe he's not giving anything away.
I don't think it's true. He's going to say the actual number.
Yeah,
and it would change anyway because we've got players to sell, players to some players might leave at the end of the contract, kind of thing, which frees up more wages.
Longman's on his way off.
On loan, hopefully. But so I think there's not much more to say about Luton. It was just a typical end of season. It was quite a nice atmosphere, things like that. I enjoyed watching it. I can imagine it was quite fun to be in the away end. Tom, I think we got quite a few praise from the Luton fans saying we actually had quite a good atmosphere for away fans for a dead rubber.
Yeah, we actually did. Yeah, we did. Yeah, it was a good turnout.
Tom, what was it like knowing you was going to a club where to get into the away end, you have to go through a back garden?
I climbed over the fence where there was a washing line to get into the ground.
Incredible,
I've been there second time I've been, and the concourse is it's like a terraced house garden. That's all it is, literally. And
yet people are going back for that.
Well, they've got to spend at least 10 million at least to meet the facilities requirements.
They go up next season. Yeah, it's mad.
Which obviously with the money you get for promotion to the Premier League, it's not really that much.
It could be an easy fix.
Yeah, I mean Luton strike me as the kind of club that will take the Premier League money and run kind of thing, not a Nottingham Forest.
My opinion on that is I hate that as well because it's very nice, a very old school sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with old school football grounds. They don't all need to be ovals.
Yeah, but imagine Man United going now or Chelsea or something with 1,000 capacity, like.
Well, they've had people. They've had lots like this season. They've had like Sheffield United and Sunderland who have big decent away followings go there.
Yeah,
Sunderland have taken 4 or 5K to some games this season. Phenomenal.
Yeah, Preston, didn't they? Like 5,000. That's Preston, I think. Mad.
Yeah, especially for being right out in the sticks up in the northeast. It's a lot of travelling to do as well, isn't it?
Obviously worse than for us.
Yeah. So there's not much more to cover really because we'll save the majority of stuff. We're actually probably longer than I expected us to be. We were struggling to find things to talk about today. We'll cover the Player of the Year awards. Obviously, that was before the Swansea game. Was it before the Swansea game or just after?
After.
Was it just after?
Like a week ago.
Yeah. The winners were Frank Donahue, Young Academy Player of the Year, Stan Ashby.
Yep.
A little bit of a legacy player there. So hopefully following in a Jacob Greaves kind of.
He's also had a good time, I think, for the younger team as well.
Hopefully following his dad's footsteps.
Yeah, hopefully. Fans Player of the Season, Player of the Season was Regan Slater. Deserved.
Can't disagree. Really.
Mine was Seri, but I can't disagree with Slater either. It was even one of them two.
Mine wasn't Slater, but mine still won the best award.
What did everyone vote? I think I actually voted for
Figueiredo.
Yeah, no, I voted for Maka. I think just because of the impact he had when he came into the side.
Oh, really?
I mean, to be fair, on the basis of the fact that it's Player of the Season and Slater played from the beginning, whereas Maka sort of came in around November, December time, probably means that it should have gone to Slater kind of thing. But I just think Maka's impact on the back four as soon as he came in was just instant and very deserved. But like you say, there was about 3 or 4 players that could have got it. Alfie Jones could have got it. You'd be happy with it as well.
I voted for Alfie Jones, and our own manager vindicated that.
Alfie Jones got Player of the Season, obviously said by Rozzy. It did surprise me actually because I did think he was going to go Regan.
I did as well. I thought he was going to. I put on Twitter clean sweep because I thought with the comments he's made about Rossini, as in like he's a joy to work with and all that. I thought he's gonna obviously choose him, but Alfie Jones well deserved. I think had a great season, like especially since Rossini's come in. Like obviously him and McLaughlin's made a great partnership, and it takes a lot for someone to obviously take Jacob Greaves' spot really. So
yeah, I mean,
he's got Young Player of the Year.
Yeah, which is odd. I think I messaged.
He's 21. He's 21 before.
But 21. If it's under 23, that's fair enough, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the age of the award, it makes sense because I remember I said I would have Greaves. He has it when everyone was saying who wins what not kind of thing on Twitter. I did say Greaves because obviously his age. But then when I messaged Gabe about it and said that obviously he won, and he was like, it just seems odd that Jacob Greaves is winning Young Player of the Year. And I think it's because obviously he's made so many first team appearances. He's been around here for so long.
It's been around for 4 years.
Feel like it should. You feel like it should be an award for a Harry Vaughan kind of player, don't you? That a youngster that's coming to the team to make an impact. Yeah, but I think
he's already made like 130 appearances in the league alone already for us as Greaves. So getting young player of the season does feel a bit weird.
It's just bizarre, isn't it, when you think about it?
He's just so experienced.
I think Seri should have won outfit of the night. I don't know.
Aaron Connolly with his
like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It was wearing like Gucci or something like that, wasn't
it? It would be very expensive.
Yeah. Seri had that, was it Gucci or was it Armani, something like that? Versace, maybe?
Yeah, Seri looks proper suave, like.
Dapper.
Some of the players have got some very questionable outfit choices, I think. Like, I think I saw Greg Dockett with a pullover on. Not a bad thing, but... You expect players, but I think the players that he didn't expect to win, so I don't think he dressed up like if he was, if he expected to win an award.
Summer.
Yeah, he won the goal of the season, didn't he? Yeah.
Which I agreed with, I think.
Yeah,
Rocket.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the other award. Obviously, Docs.
It was either that or the Longman against Rotherham because I just love that team goal as an attack.
Yeah, I think goal of the season's very interesting because it depends because everybody has such a different view on what they think is a good goal. Like some people would prefer a 30-yard thunderball into the top corner, whereas some people appreciate the 38 pass team move kind of thing.
Depends on the mood.
Very subjective, isn't it? I mean, I think I voted for the Longman one against.
I voted for the Longman one because I didn't think it'd win.
Well, I don't know. That's a bit weird logic.
Well, no, I wanted it to win, but I thought Doherty's going to get it because everyone always goes for the Thunder bastard.
Well, stop. All right. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to cover really. Obviously, it was we'll kind of finish on the fact that I put a tweet out asking the final question of it was, would you deem this season as a success? Would you deem it as a success, Will?
Yes, after October, especially, yes.
And what about you, Tom?
Yeah, I think in terms of where we are right now, I think second season back in the Championship, another season called consolidation, improved from last season. I'd say it's a success, but like, if I had to rate out of 10, I'd probably a 6. So,
it's tough, innit? Because obviously, beginning of the season, I think we all, as we'll find out, because we'll find all of our predictions and see how wrong we all were.
I bet it's really bad.
But
did you do a table prediction?
Well, we all guessed where we would. I think I did do a table prediction, but there's no chance of finding that.
City's fair. I put 13 for Hull, so
better than last season, yes, for me. The thing is like we said, the start to the season under Shotter, obviously excluding the first 4 or 5 where we went unbeaten and were top of the league, and then just fell off a cliff. That form before November was just you were watching it, but you knew that wasn't where this team should be. I think that was the most frustrating part of it, was that especially with the amount of quality we had in the side, like all the signings we made were players that you likes of Seri that should progress this team forwards, and you were similar to where we were last year. But when you look at it, and we all pretty much would say mid-table is where we should be, and mid-table is where we ended up. Obviously, we made the right appointment in terms of Rosinia, shored up the defence, and I think we've got perfect building blocks for next season. So for me, I would say it's a success. We didn't end up in a relegation fight. We stayed up safely, comfortably. In the end, we didn't really have anything to play for the last 2 months because we knew realistically, but all but mathematically, we were staying up anyway. We signed some good players, some good young players, some good seasoned players like Seri and Cyrus Christie. Carl Dowlow came in on loan. We've made some good signings, and next season, obviously, we'll wait to see what happens in summer, who leaves, who comes, and then we'll all predict where we're going to finish again. And Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So cheers for joining me anyway, guys, and anybody that was viewing all the way through us with that and managed to listen to us make something out of nothing for this episode. We appreciate the effort. Well done, guys. We were all in this together, team effort.
I bet Lee Walker's still here. Loyal fan. Lee Walker.
Yeah, he probably will be. Lee Walker, N-Shep, Ian Templeman, people like that who are here every week. Yeah. Absolutely love it. People who watch every week but don't comment, appreciate too. If nobody's hit subscribe yet, by the way, please do. We're nearly at 400, so that would help. And then obviously, like I said, the Goals TV link there. Just type in goals.tv. Yeah, there's Lee for you. Look, Tom. Thumbs up for your appreciation.
There is, thumbs up, yeah.
Thanks for your efforts. So, of course, enjoyed the banter. I mean, we're not done yet, Ian. We've got a few more episodes left. But we appreciate the support. Like I say, type in goals.tv in the bar. If you use code THAB when you're signing up, you join for free. Especially if you're into some of your American sports, it's a great site to be on. We're on there as well, obviously. We are sponsored by the Old Zoological in Hull. Got it right. We're part of the TalkSport Fan Network. Yeah. Like a tick list at the end of the episode here. And so that we're not sat here awkwardly watching you all as we leave, we're going to leave you with this. So cheers for watching, guys, and see you later.